Listen up. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to the podcast participants, and not to any participant's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. You know, for fun. So lighten up and enjoy. Alright, you fuckers. You're listening to the Soft Serve Podcast. I am your host, Sawtooth Frank. And I am late this week publishing the episode. I am recording the episode late. Therefore, the publishing will be late. Why, you ask? 'Cause I'm lazy. I'm a lazy fuck, that's why. On last week's episode, we talked about the 10 kinds of apocalypses that could wipe us all out like a bunch of fucking roaches. On this week's episode, I'm going to talk about how to survive my favorite kind of apocalypse, the global pandemic. And not that pussy COVID kind of pandemic. I mean a real fucking pandemic. Like the super flu. So that's what we're going to talk about. And I'll see ya low key on the other side of the intro music.
The Soft Serve Podcast.
You're a loser, a scumbag, lower than scum. You are a absolute zero. Absolute zero. Lower than scum. A scumbag. Absolute
Oh yeah, that's right, motherfuckers. Absolute zero. Yeah, baby. I'm your fucking scumbag. That's right. Yeah. Squeeze me. Yeah, scumbag. Squeeze me. Watch my scum come out of my bag. Yeah. Alright, well. Oh, I thought it was over. I guess it's not. Because I am an absolute zero. Alright. Wow, we wrote out the intro music the whole time. I didn't even fade that motherfucker. Okay. Well, listen. You're listening to the Soft Serve Podcast. I am your host, Sawtooth Frank. We covered that, right? We also covered that I missed recording the show on time this week. I missed publishing the show on time this week. And to you handful of motherfuckers who are still listening to this bullshit after 7 years, thank you for coming back and listening. I'm sorry I missed recording the show and publishing it on time. Really, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry a little bit. I was being lazy. It was Memorial Day weekend. I was watching movies. I went to a cookout. I ate coleslaw. I ate potato salad. Hamburger. Do you hear me? I'm not sorry. And if you need to listen to a podcast that publishes on time every week, fuck off! It's not me anymore. You're lucky I'm publishing anything. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be really honest with you, because I'm about had it with all of this. I have no more co-host.
I don't want to be an immortal lobster.
I don't know what to do from week to week anymore. I've lost the thread. Nobody writes to me. Nobody tells me how great I am. I don't have the listeners I used to have. Everything's awful. It's over. I'm going to end it all soon. So we're lucky if we get any episodes. And I always get interrupted. Every time I sit down to record, I get interrupted. That's not good. That doesn't feel great as a host. What should I do? You tell me! All right, let's get into the show. All right, I told you about why I'm late with the episode this week. The other thing, in terms of show news, is my diet is going well. I stopped eating highly processed foods. I no longer eat highly refined snacks or sugary foods any longer. I'm only eating whole foods like yogurts, ferments, meats, cheeses. So anyways, I've lost about 13 to 14 pounds so far. It's going really great. I feel much, much better. Anyways, my pants are fitting looser. My skin looks better. I feel a little bit better by cutting out all of the refined foods. Okay, so that my diet is going well. I'm going to try to keep it up. I'm tracking everything I'm eating in an app. I weigh myself every day. It's all going good. Okay? I'm clearing my throat. The other thing I know you all are worried about is my swimming pool goldfish are doing great. They're all happy and healthy. All of the pumps are working. The solar pumps. Stomping Jen said I'm no longer allowed to use electricity to run the pumps for my swimming pool goldfish pond. So I switched everything over to solar. That's all going great. Okay? All right. As we've been doing customarily on the show, before we get into how to survive a global pandemic, right? We're going to talk about that. I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in our country. That's how I've been starting the show in recent weeks, by giving you what I call a Fate of the Nation report. Let's talk about the fate of the nation. It's not good. I'm going to tell you right up front, again. I usually tell you that at the end, after I've given the Fate of the Nation report. But I'm going to tell you up front, everything sucks. Trump is ruining our fucking country. So what is he doing? I'm just going to hit the high points. I'm going to do a high-level overview of what that fucking Donald Trump is doing. Okay? So since we last talked, he has been continuing to aggressively deport people from this country and not give them access to due process.
Come on, man.
He's continuing to defy and attack the judiciary system. Those are our judges. And yeah, I said system, okay? Fuck you. That's how I say system. I say system. And if you don't like it, you can fuck off. He's continuing to defy and attack the judiciary system.
Come on, man.
What does that look like? What is he doing? What is that orange doing? He's publicly attacking our judges. He is making false claims that our courts are overstepping their constitutional authority. He's continuing to fail to fully comply with judicial rulings.
Come on, man.
And he's continuing to attempt to narrow the court's ability to halt the crazy illegal executive actions that he's taking nationally. And news outlets like ABC have been increasingly reporting over their concern about the Trump administration's attacks on our judiciary. I'm worried too, motherfuckers, because the court system has traditionally been sort of the firewall, the last line of defense against that fucking... What else is he doing? He's made attempts to expand his emergency executive powers. We've talked about this before. This is a real danger to our nation. Is Donald Trump trying to use emergency authorities
Come on, man.
to continue to undermine the constitutional order in this country. Not good. Let's see. He is continuing to apply pressure to law firms who take up cases against him. And he's continuing to attack his political opponents. And he's done these through executive orders. We just talked about that. The abuse of executive orders. But he's generally continuing to try to weaponize federal power against his political opponents and his political adversaries.
Come on, man.
Despite the fact that the actions that he's taken have been ruled by multiple courts to violate the First Amendment and the principles of equal protection and political neutrality that our government is supposed to have. Yeah, but fuck all that, right? Fuck all of that. Other things they're doing, let's see, they're continuing to restrict, they're continuing their efforts to restrict birthright citizenship. Awful. I thought I heard Trump running around out there just the other day saying that the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to immigrants. And the 14th Amendment is the amendment that says if you were born in this country, you are a citizen. And Trump and his administration is trying to undo that.
Come on, man.
Now, the good news is when they went before the Supreme Court, the Trump administration, and tried to make an argument about this, the Supreme Court basically laughed them out of the room. So hopefully the Supreme Court will rule this summer that their attempts to get rid of the 14th Amendment, the Trump administration, are total bullshit, and they put the Trump administration in their place. So what does this all mean? What are they doing? Right? Why is all of this so fucking horrible? Again, Donald Trump and his merry band of federal goons are doing everything they can to blur the lines that separate the powers of our government between the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. They're continuing to undermine due process, something we all are entitled to in this country, whether we're citizens or not, especially in immigration and deportation cases. They're attacking First Amendment protections, retaliating against the speech of lawyers, protesters, judges, anyone they think they don't like. They're attacking and using the legal system to go after. They are putting pressure on judges and undermining judicial independence, which is so important. And again, one of the most disturbing things is their continued efforts to expand emergency powers. So, folks, as I said at the beginning of this segment, the fate of the nation is not good. It's terrible. Awful. It sucks. Okay? That's all I have to say about that. The fate of the nation sucks. And if you don't like it, if you think I'm too negative about Donald Trump and the Trump administration, go fuck yourself. I don't care. Okay? All right. Now let's get on to the meat of it. The meat of this episode, which is I want to talk about how you survive a global pandemic, one that wipes out almost everybody. If you'll remember, on the last episode, I talked about all of the scenarios that could lead to an apocalypse. Let's run them down one more time. We won't talk in detail about them. It'll be a real quick rundown of the list. And least likely to most likely. Asteroid impact or supervolcano at number 10. Number 9, resource wars and mass migration conflicts. Number 8, cyber war that causes an infrastructure collapse. Number 7, the collapse of democracy and an authoritarian techno-state. Number 6, ecological collapse and biosphere degradation. Right? We can't fucking live here anymore because the environment's so bad. Number 5, global economic system breakdown. Number 4, uncontrolled or militarized AI systems. Number 3, an engineered pandemic, a synthetic biology disaster, or a natural pandemic. Number 2, great power war escalating into nuclear conflict. So, the United States, Russia, and China flexing and somebody hitting the red button and sending it all to shit. Sending missiles flying across the planet and killing us all. No one survives a nuclear war. No one. That's why I'm not doing an episode on how to survive a fucking nuclear war, because nobody can. And if you think you can survive a nuclear war by hiding in a fucking bunker like a mole person, fuck you, you're crazy. I said it on the last episode. Read the book, Nuclear War by Annie Jacobsen. Nobody fucking survives. Nobody. Number 1 on the list. Climate-driven civilization destabilization. So, the food system collapses, migration pressures, water scarcity, ecosystem collapse, extreme weather. It causes everything to go to shit, destabilizes everything, and we all die. So now let's talk about how we survive number 3, a global pandemic. Before we do that, though, I want to say something. When I was a kid, I don't know, maybe 11 or 12, I read Stephen King's The Stand for the first time. You know The Stand, don't you? It's that book where a super flu infects the world and it has a 90% mortality rate, or 99% maybe even in the book. I don't remember. But it wipes out most everybody. And when I was a kid, I fucking loved that book. It's like over 1,000 pages. And you know, when you're a kid, a teenager, you're more emotional about stuff. Things that maybe don't seem so real to you as an adult seem a lot more real as a teenager. So I loved the first part of The Stand where Stephen King describes the whole world falling apart. You know, hundreds of pages of his characters dealing with the pandemic happening and how they survive and how they wander through the world as it's emptying out around them. That's my favorite part of the book, and it was my favorite part of the book as a teenager. And I used to, I used to fantasize about that happening. I used to wish it would happen. I used to pray it would happen. Not that I believed in God as a teenager or that I believe in God now. Like every part of my being and fiber wanted there to be a super flu that would come along and wipe out the world. Now, I didn't have, if you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, you'll know, I didn't have the greatest childhood. I didn't have the best family life. So the idea of being a survivor of a flu that killed 99% of the world's population was very attractive to me. I just wished I could wander around an empty world, scavenging, doing whatever I wanted, not having to go to school, not having to deal with people. I loved it. I loved just thinking about it. So, after last week's episode, I got to thinking, after we talked about all of the apocalypses, well, what would I do? What would I do if there was a pandemic? And, we recently lived through a pandemic, this COVID-19, which was a pussy virus. Like, I know it killed millions of people, but COVID-19 was a fucking pussy. It had a mortality rate of like less than 1%. This is not what I'm talking about. COVID-19 was a very disappointing virus and a very underwhelming and disappointing pandemic. I want the kind of pandemic where, number one, I'm immune. I wasn't immune to COVID. Fuck that. I've gotten COVID many times, so I'm not immune. I want to be immune. I want to survive. That's number one. And then I wanted to kill most of the world. Just wipe everyone out so I can wander around in a post-apocalyptic nightmare world and survive. That's what I want. Now, how would you survive, right? How would you survive a flu-like pandemic that has an extremely high fatality rate? And if you were immune? Believe it or not, it's very difficult. It's not easy. So we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about this, about how to survive in 3 phases. So there's going to be the first 2 weeks, things that you need to do in the first 2 weeks. And now I'm talking to you, dear listener, because I hope you survive too. I hope you're one of the 1% who's immune. And I hope you're not an asshole. And I hope that we find each other and we can survive together. But I'm warning you, if you look at me funny, if you try to steal my supplies, we're going to have to deal with that situation. Okay? I might have to take care of you, if you know what I mean. So we're going to talk about the first 2 weeks, what you do in the first 6 months, right? And then how you survive long term, beyond 6 months. That's a real challenge. So we're going to break it down. Okay? Let's do it. All right. In the first 2 weeks, what do you need to do? Well, number one is you have to hide. You have to isolate very early. Okay? So you're going to look around. You're going to see stuff starting to go to shit. You're going to see the government beginning to push out messages. Some of those messages you might believe, some you might not. But as soon as you have a suspicion that there's a high fatality global pandemic afoot, you have got to act quickly. And you have to do this before the public starts panicking. Because once everybody starts panicking, and they will, it's going to be much harder. At all times, we've got to keep our wits about us. Believe you me, I am monitoring this hantavirus situation. I am monitoring the Ebola situation that's spiraling out of control in the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. As soon as I think that there's going to be a global pandemic that's going to kill most everybody, I'm going to jump into action. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to do this with me because we're going to survive together. This one's easy. We're going to stay home. Once we get a whiff that something's going on, once we see credible evidence, we stay home. We stay away from hospitals. We don't go to stores. We don't go to airports. No fucking way. Stay away from airports, and we don't go near big crowds. Not because we're afraid of getting infected, right? We think we're immune. No, it's the danger associated with other people. We want to stay the fuck away from other people for a while because they're going to be panicking, we think. We're going to assume that surfaces, indoors and outdoors, are contaminated. Just in case we're not immune, I mean. We want to be immune, we suspect we're immune, but we can't be certain. So that's why this initial first 2 weeks is really important. So we're gonna stay away from public spaces, and we're not going to touch anything in public spaces. We don't want to, and we don't want to breathe the air of all around that other people are breathing, these contaminated fucks. Because they're going to be the Walking Dead at this point, and we don't want to be the Walking Dead. And we do not, by any means, I hope you're listening to me, dear listener, dear fellow immune listener. We do not by any means want to let anyone else know that we're immune. Even if we can't get sick, if we become suspected of being the immune person, we could become a target of other people. They might try to coerce us to come live with us. They might become desperate for our supplies. Even the government might try to kidnap us and study us. That's what happened in The Stand. Stu Redman, a character who lived in Texas, he was immune, and the government caught on to that he was immune. And so, in addition to Stu, the government kidnapped a bunch of people they thought were immune and put them in a lab and studied them. Now, poor Stu and the other people got stranded in this lab because the people studying them all got sick and died, and they were locked in a level 4 containment lab. That's fucked up shit. Okay, so isolate, hide, do not let anyone else know you're immune or you suspect you're immune. All right, let's say we make it beyond 2 weeks. We've managed to successfully hide. Now let's talk about the first 6 months. What are we going to do in the first 6 months? This is really, really important, okay? Food. We want to begin thinking about food. After the first 2 weeks, and for the next 6 months, we've got to focus on getting calories. We want shelf-stable food. And we need to keep it simple, very simple. Okay, we're not going to be out there hunting for Wagyu beef. Fuck your Wagyu beef. That's not what we need. Here's what we need. We need rice, beans, oats, pasta, lentils, peanut butter. We want Skippy. That's the best peanut butter. It's very spreadable. We don't want that teddy bear peanut butter. The shit you have to mix. That's no good. It's too much effort. We'll burn too many calories mixing peanut butter. We need Teddy. We need Skippy. Fuck Teddy. Teddy is not a sponsor of this podcast, by the way. Neither is Skippy. Freeze-dried meats. That's the other thing we need. Now, if you happen to have freeze-dried Wagyu beef, fine. You can have your Wagyu as long as it's freeze-dried. Cooking oil, salt and sugar, multivitamins. Even if they're those Flintstone shit that you give kids, you've got to be taking vitamins. Okay, some other stuff we need. A manual can opener, a propane stove and propane, water purification supplies. Water everywhere. We must drink water. And we have to count on the fact that municipal water systems are going to fail. They will fail. And we're not going to be able to trust the municipal water. So how do we store water? Okay? It's easy. We put it in water containers. We build a gravity water filter to treat our water. You can store some unscented bleach to purify the water. And also, if we need to be collecting water, you can think about various rain collection methods involving roofs, that sort of thing. Yep, again, it happened. Somebody just interrupted me. God fucking damn it. This is like the 5th podcast in a row I've attempted to record and somebody's interrupted me. And I've lost my train of thought. And the cat is now screaming. Isn't this lovely? I'm not going to edit this out. I want you all to experience what I fucking experience. My phone's dinging, the cat's screaming. I was talking about rain collection methods. You could use your roof, you can use rain barrels, you can use anything else. Shut the fuck up! Oh my God. So what do you need? How much do you need? You need, realistically, 1 gallon per person per day for water. And that's for drinking and sanitation. So you need 1 gallon of water for drinking and for other activities like washing your hands, washing your arse and your body, etc., etc. Very important. Okay, 1 gallon per person per day. But since it's just going to be me and you, dear listener, we're only going to need 2 gallons a day. It's probably likely that our family members are all going to perish in the pandemic, and our friends. So it's just going to be us. All right, other things we need to be thinking about. Medicine and sanitation. Even immune people like us. We can die from injuries, infections, lack of medicine, poor sanitation. I just told you, you have to clean your arse and wash your hands. So what kind of supplies are we going to need for medicine and sanitation? Antibiotics. So we're going to break into the local CVS or Walgreens, and we're going to stock up on antibiotics. We're going to get them all for ourselves and hoard them. We need first aid kits. We're going to need gloves. We're probably going to want some N95 masks. Soap for washing hands and arses. Bleach. Toilet paper. Trash bags. And there's some other things we're going to want to learn. Some skills. Basic wound care. CPR. Dear listener, so when I have a heart attack, you can resuscitate me. And maybe vice versa. Maybe. It depends what kind of pandemic partner you turn out to be. Whether I use CPR to resuscitate you. We'll see. And we talked about this. We want to learn how to purify our water, right? Because water is very, very important. Other things we want to be thinking about early on. Energy and communications. The electrical system that we all depend upon is going to fail. And when that happens, our chances of getting injured or dying go up. So what can we do to prepare? What can we do once everything collapses? Here's what we can do. We can do this before the pandemic starts, or we can do this right after. We want to get solar panels, batteries, flashlights, power banks, a hand crank radio, because there might be other people out there broadcasting. We want to hear what they're saying. We don't necessarily want to contact them, but we want to hear what they're saying if they're stupid enough to broadcast. We're going to want fuel stabilizer for gasoline. Gasoline goes bad very quickly. So we'll want to get our hands on fuel stabilizer and gasoline and stabilize that shit quickly. So again, I was saying we want to be able to hear what other people are willing to communicate to us, because we want to know where the outbreaks are. We want to know if there are places where people have functioning water systems and power. We want to know whether or not something terrible is coming our way and we need to evacuate. So we want to be in the know. We don't necessarily want to talk to people. We just want to be in the know. Okay, security, physical security, very important. And I want to say, once this pandemic starts and you and we're immune, people are going to become desperate. And we all know desperate people are fucking unpredictable. So here are some very important principles we're going to live by. We're going to keep a very low profile. We're going to avoid conflicts. We're not going to tell people about our supplies. We're not going to store them out in the open. And if we decide to trust other people, it's going to be with a small group that we are convinced is reliable. We're going to test people. Now, knowing all of that, our very best defenses in the apocalypse, the global pandemic, the super flu, are going to be obscurity, distance from dense populations. So we want to be far on the outskirts of cities, even suburbs. And we want to prepare ahead of time. Now, I'm not saying you have to be a prepper, but you should be thinking about these things. But on the whole, rural and semi-rural areas are the best places for us to set up and survive once the urban centers start collapsing. Okay, we need to be thinking about our psychological survival. Now, we're going to have each other, dear listener, because you and I, we are immune. But saying that, you could die. And these are some things I'm going to need to think about. Loneliness. Assuming, I'm missing my family and assuming I'm missing you, if you are a good pandemic partner. Grief. We're going to get tired of all of the decisions we have to make day in and day out. This is not going to be easy. Paranoia. We're going to struggle with paranoia. Who do we trust? Who's after us? We're going to be living in a heightened state for a long time. So what can we do? What can we do to help us with our psychological survival? We can set up routines for ourselves. We can exercise. Push-ups, sit-ups, cold plunges, jumping jacks. Let's stick with the basics. We don't want to be in the gym lifting weights because I think we can get hurt. That way, we can drop a weight on our toe, or a machine might malfunction and break our arm. We don't want to do any of that. We want to stick with the basics. I would say basic, safe calisthenics. We can read books and other things, magazines, whatever we find laying around to help our mind think about other stuff than the global pandemic that we're surviving. We can make sure we are doing meaningful work. So maintaining our water filters, checking our solar panels, making sure our perimeter is secured. If we have alarms set up, making sure they're functional. And again, setting up regular social contact with people we trust. Not sketchy fuckers. Not sketchy fuckers. Okay, so that's the stuff we're going to do in the first 6 months. It's not easy. Are you still with me? Do you still want to survive a pandemic with me? A super flu? I don't care if you do. Honestly, because you're probably going to do something stupid and die right away. Because you're not listening to me. You probably think you know what to do. But I'm being paranoid, see? The pandemic hasn't even started, and I'm not even following my own advice. So I'm going to assume, dear listener, that you are a reliable person to go through the pandemic with, okay? All right, let's get focused back on how we live through this pandemic long term. So we're talking beyond 6 months. If this disease is really killing 99% of the people, modern civilization's gonna collapse. So the motherfucking I hope the pandemic kills cats. I hope the pandemic kills cats. I really do. So what are we gonna need long term? I'm petting the cat with my right hand, by the way, if my voice sounds weird. I am not masturbating, I am petting the cat. We're going to need long term. We have to always be thinking about clean water. We need water. People fucking die without water in 72 hours. Water, 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 water. Never stop thinking about water. You and I. How are we going to get food? Eventually our food is going to fucking run out. So we're going to need to figure out how to make our own food. Growing vegetables. Husbandry. Raising goldfish in swimming pools. Raising goats, cows, chickens, lambs, sheeps. Anything we can eat. If we can produce it, we should. Now maybe we can even hunt too, to get food, if we know how to hunt. But hunting can be dangerous because accidents happen when you hunt. But I guess accidents can happen when you're taking care of animals too. I guess a cow could go berserk and attack you or something. That's always possible. Energy, long term, we need energy. Firewood, solar power, hydroelectric power. Maybe we set up our little camp next to a river or something. And we figure out how to make hydroelectric power. We're going to need community. One of the things I've learned from this show that I like to watch on TV called Alone, where people go into the wilderness and survive by themselves. And we talked about this. Is people go berserk. They go crazy if they don't have other people. So we need community. Again, they have to be trustworthy. Not just any sketchy fuck you run across. And we're going to need a way to vet people to become part of our community. Security measures. We have to take security measures. Maybe, dear listener, one of us has a gun, or two guns and a machine gun, or two guns and a machine gun and a bazooka. Traps. Vietnamese tiger traps. We set those little pits with spikes in them up all over our property. Maybe we train animals to attack intruders, attack dogs. Snake pits. We could build snake pits too. We could fill holes with poisonous snakes. There's many things we can do for security. And we should be thinking about that long term. Skills. We have to never stop learning. We have to continue to teach ourselves skills to survive. What are those? We talked about some of these. Gardening. We have to learn how to grow stuff. And not weed, you druggie. We don't want weed everywhere. Okay, fine. Grow a little weed. That's fine. Grow a little poppies so we have access to medicinal morphine. Maybe grow some magic mushrooms in case you need that for some reason. I don't fucking know. Don't ask me. But we have to learn to grow things. We have to learn to fix things. So we have to teach ourselves mechanical skills, medical knowledge. We should get books on how to fix human beings when they get sick, or even animals. Like maybe, dear listener, your gallbladder is going to go bad and I have to cut it out of you. Or I need a new kidney and I have to take one of yours, dear listener. So medical knowledge is going to be important. And if we're growing food, we have to learn how to preserve it, obviously. So food preservation is going to be important. Water treatment. We want to learn how to treat water. We're going to be saving water, collecting water, but we got to make sure we know how to make it safe to drink. And if we can learn all of this shit, dear listener, you and I, but probably just me, if we end up having to go to another community or something because one of us perishes or dies, having these skills is going to be really important for the long term. So that's how we're going to survive. I've laid out the blueprints for you. It's all there. Dear listener, you and me, we got this. I promise. Now, I think it's an almost certainty that this global super deadly pandemic is going to happen. So what are the mistakes people are going to make? What are some of the mistakes people are going to make and that we want to avoid? Waiting too long to take action. Remember all the stuff we talked about that we had to do in the first 2 weeks? Isolating early, staying home immediately, avoiding hospitals, right? Assuming everything around you is contaminated and can make you sick, not telling people that you're immune, all that stuff. You got to do that. We don't want to wait too long. We got to act fast. Other mistakes, trusting rumors. Trust your gut. You know, you're going to know when the pandemic is going down. We don't want to panic travel, right? So when the shit starts to hit the fan, you don't want to jump in your Tesla or your, God, please tell me you don't have a Tesla. You don't want to jump in your Toyota or your Honda or your Ford and hit the road. That's going to be a disaster for you. You don't want to overestimate that we're going to have supplies available to us. We don't want to let people know that we're prepared either. That would be a huge mistake. It's going to put a big target on us, dear listener. You know, another thing, we've talked about this in various forms, is we don't want to isolate too much without having the support of other people. Other people are going to be important eventually, especially for the long term. And if we need help, dear listener, mostly you, not me, because I got this. I know what I'm doing. You don't. If we need help or you need help, really, is like I'm saying, we want to have people available. You know, history, I want to talk a little bit about circle back to the likelihood of this. Well, it's true that no known pandemic has ever approached a 99% global fatality rate. I think it can still happen. I believe it. I believe that what Stephen King describes in The Stand is basically a documentary in written form, and we should believe that that's going to happen. If you don't believe that, fuck you. But anyways, the most recent, deadliest modern pandemic happened in 1918. That was an influenza pandemic. It had a much lower mortality rate, but it caused incredible global disruption. It was extremely transmissible. And it had a 90% lethality rate. Meaning, if you got it, you only had a 10% chance of living. I told you, I believe that a super flu is going to happen, that 99% of the world's population is going to get wiped out, and that I'm going to survive. And I hope, dear listener, you are immune also. And I hope that you find me in this global pandemic, in this super flu, and that we're able to help each other. Maybe we'll even have a post-pandemic podcast. And you know what? If 99% of the world's population dies, we'll have a captive audience. And our post-pandemic podcast will do better than the Soft Serve podcast did when there was a undecimated world population. Okay? All right, so there you go. That's the outline. That's everything I've got for you on how we're going to survive a global pandemic. Probably a super flu of some kind. All right, folks, so let's transition to what I'm watching at the movies, on TV, what music I'm listening to. Movies, I saw 3 movies over the Memorial Day weekend. I saw a horror movie called Obsession, which was fucking awesome. Go see it. It's about a guy who makes a wish that a girl would love him, and everything goes horribly wrong. I saw a movie called I Love Boosters. It's a weird fucking name. It's a movie made by this director called Boots Riley, and it's a satire. And it involves a group of women who steal clothing from a high-end boutique. And it is a commentary on capitalism and retail culture and a whole bunch of other stuff. Definitely worth seeing. It was a little too long, if I'm being honest with you, so maybe wait for it to come out on streaming, and then you can sort of decide if you need to take a break, go get yourself something out of the fridge, what have you. I also saw in the theaters The Mandalorian and Grogu. If I'm being honest with you, it wasn't that great. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it wasn't great. You know, it has that little baby Yoda puppet in it, and Pedro Pascal, who is the Mandalorian. That's a guy who belongs to the same order, I guess you call it, order or guild as Boba Fett, that character from the original Star Wars trilogy. I think he appeared in the prequels too, but he's a bounty hunter type of guy. And that's what the Mandalorian is. He's a bounty hunter. So this is the story. It was a TV show on Disney Plus. It ran for 3 seasons. I saw seasons 1 and 2. Those were okay, not great. I skipped season 3, and then I went to go see this movie. And a lot of people are saying this, so it's not like my original idea or observation, but I definitely felt it. It seems like the movie Mandalorian and Grogu is just a bunch of episodes that they had written, that they stringed together. And it's just like way too fucking long. I fell asleep in it 3 times, I'll be honest with you. So, you can trust my review. You don't have to trust my review. I don't care. Whatever. Music. Not listening to anything new. Oh, no, there's another movie I saw. It's called Apex. It's a Netflix movie that stars Charlize. Are you sure her name's not pronounced Charlize? Well, whatever. Charlize Theron. It stars Charlize Theron. And it's about a woman who is out in the Australian countryside, and she is getting chased by a psycho killer. It was enjoyable enough for a Netflix movie. It wasn't great, I'll be honest. But Charlize Theron was good. I really like her in most things. I've liked her ever since she played a serial killer, actually, in a movie. She played this woman, I'm forgetting her name, who killed a bunch of men at truck stops. That movie came out in the 90s, I think. It was a really good movie. So that's Apex. And then I was about to tell you, and I think in 2 weeks I'm going to see a concert by this Spanish woman. I don't know, is she Spanish? I don't know. Her name is Rosalia, and she sings in 12 different languages. So I'm busy boning up on 12 languages. I have to learn all 12 languages before I go see her concert. I don't think I could name 12 languages. I was just thinking about trying to do that, but I don't think I could. So, going to see that. And on TV, Stomping Jen and I are finishing up and watching the last season of Euphoria. The 3rd and last season. And I think it's been fucking phenomenal. I love Euphoria. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I think this third episode where they pick up with all of the characters long after they're out of high school has been fantastic. Like, I love everything about it. I love the way it's shot. I love the soundtrack. I love the storylines. So, you know, Euphoria is a little heavy on the sexploitation of its female characters, but there are messages beneath all of that. Speaking of messages, we're also watching the show, the follow-up to The Handmaid's Tale, called The Testaments, which I'm actually liking a lot more than The Handmaid's Tale. It follows a bunch of characters, like, I don't know how many years, but like more than 10 years after the events of The Handmaid's Tale. And it's pretty good. I'm really enjoying it. Mostly because it doesn't have Elizabeth Moss in it. Well, she appears in like a episode or two, but it's very brief, and I don't have to look at her face making faces. The dumb expressions that she's always making, staring at the camera all intensely. Oh my God. I couldn't watch the last season of The Handmaid's Tale because of the gratuitous way the camera lingered on Elizabeth Moss's face. It was too much. Too much Elizabeth Moss. And that's it, folks. That's all I have for you this week. Yeah, the podcast was late. It's probably going to be late again. And remember what I said about that? If you don't like it, fuck you! I can't even believe I'm still doing this without Stomping Jen. Alone. Remember when we were talking about how to survive a pandemic? We talked about social isolation and paranoia. Well, that's me. I'm socially isolated. I'm paranoid. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm talking to you anymore. I don't know why I've been yelling this whole episode. I don't know anything. I'm losing it. I don't know if I can continue. All right. There's a couple of things I need from you. Please follow the podcast on Facebook, on Instagram, on Substack, on X, on Blue Sky. I think that's everything. You can send me feedback if you like the episode, if you hate the episode, if you want me to stop podcasting, if you want me to continue, if you want me to find a new host. Send me feedback. You can do that by email. You can do it through any of those social media platforms I mentioned. You can do it through direct messages, smoke signals, whatever. I don't care. Just send me something, all right? I'm socially isolated in podcast land. I'm paranoid. So, that's it. Maybe we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Maybe not. I don't fucking know. Maybe it'll be longer. Maybe it'll be shorter. Maybe something will happen and I'll do an impromptu emergency episode. I don't know. You don't know. But here's what I do know. What I'm going to say to you right now, my dear listeners. And that is the thing that I say at the end of every episode. And if you know it, I want you to say it with me on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Bye now.
This world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility. That all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources, scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road.